Do you want to get rid of all your problems right away? Like, I'm not joking. By problems, I mean how you are affected by the circumstances around you, not necessarily that you're going to solve everything. That's not going to happen ever. Let's check the catch, the main point, the problem, the trick, why it works, and later on we will talk about resistance and how to ultimately reduce your personal health and how all this applies to improving your life on a day-to-day basis. The catch is that even when you succeed temporarily, like for a few seconds you do it, your mind will revert back to problems. So it's not that it doesn't work instantly. It works instantly. The problem is that you have to repeat it over and over until establish a new pattern in your mind. The main point is that when you look at something, you sort of figure it out if you honestly look at it. Like, let's put as example science or philosophy. When you seriously consider something, you bring light to it. You bring the light of your awareness to what you're observing, and that brings back some wisdom or understanding of what's happening. So the actual problem is not the situation. It's how we are reacting to the situation that is actually affecting us. Someone could experience the same thing that you're experiencing and react in a completely different way. In that sense, the problem is not really the situation, but how we're reacting to it. Remember that there are people who survive wars and survive very horrible situations, the worst nightmares you could ever imagine, and still they manage to pull out their lives. So the question is why someone will be suffering for something that is, to start with, maybe out of their hand. It's like someone else's behavior or something like that, or not being able to control every circumstance in your life. That's pretty normal. That's okay. That happens to literally every human. So why to make it a problem and suffering from it? Why not at least enjoy what you have around it? So we basically blind our own direct experience with thinking. Too much thinking, so many thoughts. And these thoughts are based on the idea that you're paying attention to them. That's the only way you will re-energize this uncomfortable situation. The trick is that if we are blinding ourselves from reality by overthinking, the trick is obviously or reduce your thinking or you pay more attention. Let's stick with that. Right now, for example, just start noticing the sounds around you, the sensations in your body, how the clothes are touching your skin, how you're breathing. There are certain moments where things come, go, and they're always changing. On the top of that, you will notice the more you experience this sensory universe around yourself, the more you start experiencing certain kind of inclusive space. So it's not just you inside of your head. That's what we feel when we are suffering and we are living our problems with too much intensity. Just open your awareness to everything else and start including sensations and everything that is happening right now. Your brain will tell you that that is not relevant, that that's not important, that that's not even interesting, and that is boring. But that's a lie. That's a survival mechanism of our brain when we are stressed to pay attention to danger. So it creates a vicious loop while we'll never get out of the problem. For example, you're listening to this video and just don't try to think about what I'm saying. Let the words disappear into nothing. You don't need to understand them. Just let the words disappear as if they wouldn't matter. And at the same time, start noticing your 5 senses. Notice the position of your body. Notice your weight. Notice your surroundings. Feel the whole room around you. Notice the distance to the walls, the wall in front of you, the wall in the back, on your right, on your left. Get a sense of the space around you, the space above your head. And now, while you're feeling all this space, how big are your thoughts compared to that space? Your thoughts are going to be around your head, around a very localized area close to your brain. So how small are your thoughts compared to the reality of the presence of this room? Notice the space, the specific amount of volume you're thinking and the rest of the room occupy. Now you could even trigger one of your problems and at the same time sustain this sense of space around you, and just notice how small your problems really are compared to the reality that is around you. You can even expand a sense of space to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world, to the rest of the solar system, the universe. And the bigger you go, the smaller your problems are. There's just a sense of release of your personal jail that is made of thoughts, just by adding space around it. Why it works? This has been in meditations since ever. Practically every path of meditation is implying this idea. But it also has been specifically studies in the West that actually prove that your brain goes into a very balanced alpha state, which is that state where you're on the zone and everything is good and you feel good and you're relaxed and you're very concentrated on what you're doing, but without being stressed about it. Add space to your experience in the way that we did before. It is that simple, but expect resistance. All the habits of your mind of clouding your attention, being completely locked in your head and reacting emotionally to that, that's very strong patterns we have been practicing for all our lives. So expect that the moment that you open that space, it will tend to close. Maybe one day you will succeed and sometimes you are very excited. Wow, I just really feel very connected to this moment and I feel good and I don't care why. But certainly it's gonna tend to close and that's normal. That's where everybody is, and that's why please make a practice out of it and do it repeatedly. So while you're at work, while you're walking on the street, while you're doing anything, you can still add this sense of space. As I'm talking to you, you could just create more space around ourselves and you will see how your brain is kind of relaxing about it, but it doesn't mean that you are not paying attention, that you are not functioning. So literally could do anything in your life by adding this sense of space. Try it out and let me know how it works for you. So the more you practice to stay in this open space, the less the situations will trigger you. And eventually, and here's where the real game changer is, if you actually take that as a practice, and you don't even need to tell anyone that you're practicing that. You could be in a meeting, you could be just doing literally anything, just add space to it and keep doing what you're doing. If you do that for long, extended periods of time, you will notice a dramatic reduction of your pain, of your problems, of your sensation of suffering. So the important thing to remember is that there is an activity in you that actually sort of cooperates with that suffering. If you don't cooperate with it, it will smooth away to the point that you will feel satisfied and you won't feel that you don't need anything from anyone. Ultimately, this video is aiming to make you realize that you're free. Ultimately free. You don't need to run away from your problems. You don't need to be chasing a future where you achieve your goals and you finally make people do whatever you want them to do or to have enough money. You don't need to wait for that to feel satisfied, to feel complete. The actual thing we're looking for is already present, but we don't see it because we are too close in our own personal drama. And this is something very objective that you can challenge every time you practice opening this space. The more you do it, the more consistently you do it, the more you will detach and it will make you ultimately free from any circumstance. Thank you for watching.